Today we're talking about picking contractor manager software, and I'm going to tell you the thought process that I went through. So as you're thinking about software procurement for your business, you can think through these things as well. So I currently work with a contractor on Upwork, and it's a great experience. I like that you can track payments every week. She gets paid every week, and I don't have to think about the ongoing management of it. But as I was working with this news person who's going to be located close to me, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just picking Upwork out of convenience. So I explored a couple other options, including running my own payroll, which was kind of crazy. So I'm going to talk through the different options that I went through because hopefully this is helpful for someone else. So the different softwares I considered, they were kind of a lot, and you can use as many options that help you make a decision as you're thinking about bringing on new software in your business, because when you are a small business, you get to explore a lot more options. So I had experience with Melio for paying 1099 contractors, but it was recently acquired by another company, so I'm a little bit cautious on even using them. I did run an AI search and they recommended Friday, even like Deal, and I'm going to put this in the same category of Rippling, which are interesting because they didn't have pricing readily available or something. It wasn't something I could immediately sign up for. They wanted you to do a demo, and anytime someone says, hey, do a demo, likely it's too much. But I was curious, so I got on one demo call and I was like, what's the price? It was the same price as the AI tool recommended. So I only wasted 10 minutes. I ended up canceling this demo and saved some time. I got a quote from someone on like payroll because I was kind of not really sure if this contractor would be doing like employee type of work. Not really, but it was one of those like, okay, let me just explore it, just see if this is easier, especially if I think about bringing somebody new on in the future. Way too complicated on top of other like restrictions and other things to think about. I am so used to already paying, and I forgot to write the incumbent on here. So these are my options. So it was like Upwork, Melio, Friday, Deal, and I looked into Gusto, which if you've signed up for Gusto before and closed an account, which I had, you can't easily sign up. So this was kind of a non-starter. I did want to include it. The only reason I didn't go with QuickBooks is I'm thinking about canceling my QuickBooks subscription and just doing my own books because my expenses aren't necessarily that complicated because it's just contractors and other expenses. So I was exploring Upwork. And the reason I was able to like X these out is because in my head, I was doing a quadrant, but I didn't actually draw this out. So I'm going to draw this out and put these in a quadrant because I feel like this always makes it easier for me. So there are some softwares that are built for enterprises. So like these are really enterprise software tools like Rippling. They tell you they're looking for their first questions after I reached out about the demo were like, are you going to grow internationally? And how many employees do you have? Because I have one and one contractor. So I was like, oh, this really isn't for me. And then this is like price. This is kind of pricey. This is kind of affordable, which they are kind of more over here. And then this is like solopreneur. So they're probably more here, I guess. This actually wasn't that bad. It was like $35 a month. It wasn't horrible compared to what I ended up picking, which was QuickBooks, which in most RFPs, they end up picking the incumbent, and there's a reason, and we'll talk about that. But I explored Melio, which is like pretty, not too much. I mean, it was like actually not bad. It was just pretty light, and I'm worried about it going away after the acquisition, which even though it might fit the price bill, it didn't necessarily work. And then I don't even think I looked at Friday's pricing. It just looked a little off, but I ended up picking Upwork because of other factors. And the reason I draw this quadrant out and I want to like note, sometimes when you're picking an RFP or you're doing an RFP for yourself, there are like lots of factors, right? There are some that you measure and then there's some that are qualitative. Quantitative, it was easy to kind of see like, okay, this is clearly for enterprises. This is clearly for solopreneurs. This is clearly more expensive. This is clearly not as expensive. But then there's other like I was going to say business, industry factors like Melio got acquired, and I was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to be around, but it's not something that I necessarily chart, but it's something that you want to know because it's going to affect your use of them in the future. So I ended up picking Upwork because another like other factor that's like hard to chart is the all inclusiveness of the tool. Like I could do time tracking with Upwork and manage the contract. The reason I didn't originally even just pick them from the beginning and I didn't go down this path is I'm used to putting out a bid on Upwork to find someone. But they have a feature called a direct contract, and because that's not how I'd experienced the tool, I hadn't explored it recently. I was crashing out and like exploring the tool and figuring out how I was going to bring on somebody. And then I noticed they had this feature and I was like, oh, this is exactly what I need. I already have a person identified. I found them on Indeed. This was a matter of like figuring out how do I pay them. So I went back on Upwork, sent her the direct invite, and now I'm using Upwork again. So I went through a lot of theatrics to get here, and this is you in chat, this is you on paper, but sometimes the decisions are messy and you thinking through what works for you and scenario building, but that's part of procurement. So as you're thinking about bringing on a new software into your business, consider this full intensive whiteboarding exercise to ensure you make a decision that makes the most sense for yourself. Thanks for listening.